This is the story of the most successful female pilot of World War II, and as you'll see, history has been very hard on her. Her call sign was "She Who Flies Without a Name," that S because she flew over enemy lines into Nazi-occupied France to help downed Allied pilots escape back to safety. Between 1942 and 1945, she flew over 1,000 dangerous missions, but her country never claimed her as one of their own. And today, we don't even know her name. Her story began in the small village of Taloise, in the Haute-Savoie province of France. Her father owned a small cafe, and her mother was the daughter of a local farmer. It was 1919, and France had just emerged victorious from the First World War. But there were still thousands of men missing in action. So when Yvonne was born, nobody thought she would ever have a father, and so they named her Odette. Odette grew up hearing stories about the war and how brave her father was, even though he had never come home. As a little girl, she dreamed of being a pilot just like him. When Odette was 6 years old, her mother married a man named Maurice. He wasn't a bad guy, but he wasn't her dad, and that made Odette resentful. So when she was 16, she did something her mother had always told her not to do. She took flying lessons. In the beginning, Odette struggled to get her pilot's license, but once she got it, she became a natural. Soon she was spending all her time at the airfield. She worked as a mechanic and a secretary, but she also started to fly planes. She wanted to be a pilot in the French Foreign Legion, but when they heard she was a woman, they sent her packing. So instead, in 1939, Odette joined a civilian air club where she trained male pilots for the French Air Force. Then in 1940, Germany invaded France. The French Air Force was quickly overwhelmed, and by June, France had surrendered to the Nazis. But that didn't mean that the war was over for Odette, you see. She had fallen in love with a British pilot named Peter. And when he heard that Britain was forming an elite unit of pilots to fly dangerous missions behind enemy lines, he immediately volunteered. But before he left, he told Odette that if he died, he wanted her to join the unit. Then he was gone. For a while, Odette tried to keep working as a pilot trainer. But the longer the war went on, the more brutal the Germans became. So in 1942, Odette made up her mind. We would find Peter and bring him home. You see, this was long before women were allowed to serve in combat roles in the military. And flying over enemy lines was one of the most dangerous jobs in the war. But Odette didn't care. She joined Peter's unit and took the call sign "She Who Flies Without a Name." That's because the British wanted to protect her identity in case she was captured by the Germans. Over the next 3 years, Odette flew hundreds of missions deep into Nazi territory. She helped more than 1,000 downed Allied pilots escape back to safety. But she wasn't just a delivery pilot. She also helped lead attacks against German forces and even taught German prisoners how to fly planes. All the while, Odette was in great danger. If the Germans had caught her, she would have been executed. But somehow she managed to evade them. In fact, she was only shot at twice, and both times her plane was hit. Once she managed to land her damaged plane and repair it, the other time she just kept flying until she got to safety. Toward the end of the war, Odette began to worry about another danger: getting married. See, when she enlisted in the British Air Force, she had to sign papers stating that she wouldn't marry for the duration of the war. But she had fallen in love with a British captain named John Kent, and they wanted to get married. So in 1945, Odette made one last flight. She flew to London to meet with her superiors and tell them that she wanted to get married. But before she could tell them, the war ended. When Odette returned to France, she found out that she was pregnant. She had married John and gave birth to a son. Then she returned to her old life. For a while, she worked as a pilot, but eventually she retired and opened a small inn near the Swiss border. And that's where she lived out the rest of her days. But here's the thing. Even though Odette flew over 1,000 dangerous missions, rescued more than 1,000 Allied soldiers, and even helped liberate France from the Nazis, her country never claimed her as one of their own. And that's why today, we don't know her name. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, share, comment, and subscribe.